Welcome to Lent for everyone for Thursday. We continue into the Gospel of Matthew, and in this passage today, we really have this story of the vineyard owner that is as N.T. Wright says, it's not a nice story. It's not a pleasant story, but I think it is an important one. First of all, when Wright says in the middle of page 86, I just wrote preach next to it when he said, "But with the world the way it is, if God doesn't get cross about it, he is not a good God. If he doesn't do something about it, sooner or later, he's quite simply not God." And what Wright is saying there is that Jesus is actually God's very answer to all of the problems of our world, that he is the answer to this problem of sin and evil that plagues us. What's hard for us in our position is that we wonder why it's not all fixed yet, and why disease particularly ravages us, or why other bad things happen. And that's a question for another day, but it's important to remember that Jesus is the answer to even that, and that he has come to fix it all, that one day when he returns, he will set the world to rights. I think the verse that struck me most in this passage today is that of verse 43, where Jesus, after telling the parable, says this, "So let me tell you this, God's kingdom is going to be taken away from you," talking to the Jewish leaders, "and given to a nation that will produce the goods." And basically what he's saying is that it was the people of Israel, especially these leaders, these Pharisees, who were actually getting in the way of God's redemptive purposes, that by not seeing Jesus for who he was, that they were stopping up the purposes. And I think a question then that reflects for us is not, hey, look, we're not the Jewish leaders. It becomes, how are we so often like those Jewish leaders and those Pharisees? How do we see ourselves in them? How do we stop up what God's kingdom is trying to accomplish? And I found his final description, the description about how the word son and stone, S-O-N, son, and stone are both similar in English, but even more so in Hebrew, and that this rejected son, like the rejected stone, will become the Lord of all and the judge of all. And that's what this idea of Jesus becoming the chief cornerstone is that he couldn't fit anywhere else, but instead he is the thing that holds the whole kingdom together. And even though he will be rejected, he is also the judge of all. I know this is not an easy passage for us at Lent, but I do pray that as we read these texts, and some of them are hard, I acknowledge that, that truly we would see that God is in the business of redemption, and that he wants to bring us along in that project of redeeming the entire world, and we get to be a part of it with him. God bless you today.